All right, that's loading up. Screen is dirty. I need to fix that. All right, we live. We in this thing.
Yo.
All right.
Hard out at 11:30.
Hard out 11:30. Perfect. I could be problematic fast.
Yeah, I wonder what else you got to talk about, man.
I got some shit. I got some shit. Do you have any topic ideas?
Yeah. Let me look at the list right quick. I got PJ Washington and Brittany Renner.
Oh, that's a good one. I did not have that. I'm so glad. Yes.
The gays attacking rappers, according to T.I.
Yep.
This one I don't know. This one feels like it can be talked about anytime, but I saw Idris Elba had an interesting idea. He had the idea that everyone should be verified for social media. So every profile you have to prove is you. So anything you say can and will be used against you. So there's no internet trolls of anonymous people. Great idea. Fuck with that.
I like that.
I don't know how celebrities are gonna feel about that, but maybe they'll keep the blue check marks and the regular people will get a different color check mark or something.
And they could still have a burner account. It just won't be verified, which they don't want anyway.
He said no accounts are unverified.
Oh, so they can't have a burner account.
Yeah, in order to sign up, you got to prove that it's you.
All right. Well, I have a different take on that now.
What you got, man?
So I had a take about Team USA. I had a take about Team USA in the Olympics. And I had a take about the vaccine.
Okay.
Other than that, I had the baby, and I like the two other topics you brought too.
Okay.
Thank you. You got the soundboard queued up. You ready?
That's the sound of getting canceled.
Kawasaki on that shit. All right. You already know what it is, but just in case you don't, it's the Self-Medicated Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Wayfarer, aka Quentin Quarantino, aka the Banter Boss, aka Jon Snow, because I know absolutely nothing.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
And this is usually true, but they also call me Young Wastradamus, aka Young Mortgage Freeman.
What the hell is he doing? Fucking people.
Fucking people. AKA Young Floyd Mayweather, AKA Troy the Checker, AKA Way Pesos. Here as always with the captain of the igloo, young, popular, and friendly, AKA the Box Hunter. AKA One Pop Poppy, AKA the Bottom Feeder, AKA the Black Kevin Sorbo, AKA Young Black Hercules, AKA the strongest nigga you know.
Go.
Big flex, aka the light-skinned Kevin Samuels, aka the do-rag Don Dada. What it do, man? How are you?
Or do you want to go left?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, it's all good. I got it in there.
I feel like it goes better at the end anyway.
I agree. We got to switch those last two around. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Building up my clientele, using your house as a barbershop. It's all great, man.
Oh yeah, I heard you did some lineups for a wedding.
Yeah, I cut like 3 people at your house. Well, not at your house. 2 people at your house. 1, your upstairs neighbor. But cut Steven, literally and figuratively. And cut Jordan as well.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Getting that practice in. That might be your bag, doing like exclusive wedding cuts. Like, if it ain't for an event, I ain't pulling out the clippers. Fuck all that.
I was talking to your aunt Raven, one of her friends.
Yeah.
he told me about a business his friend had where he's a traveling barber that has a barber chair on a party bus. So and it has a bathroom and all this shit. So like you can, you know what I'm saying, get yourself together and I guess party and drink and all that. I was like, that's a different idea. I never thought of that before. And he's like, yeah, he got one of them he uses for his personal use, and he has another bus that he's gonna rent out in the future. I was like, okay, I have to get more info about that. So,
that's really, really dope. I feel like it's a very poppin' social scene in Chicago to even be able to do that with like a pretty high level of clientele. Imagine somebody that flies in for a show and just didn't have time to get cut before they left. You know what I mean? Like that's actually a brilliant idea.
You don't have to be stationary when you're doing that shit though, but
oh yeah, of course. If you're not investing in like military drone level suspension, yeah, you got to be still maybe outside your hotel or at the maybe at the hotel or at like maybe outside the green room or some shit so you can get other people to come in too. That's a dope ass idea.
Yeah. So, you know,
sounds like a good week, and I know you back out in these streets too. That's good. That's good to hear. I
never left.
Oh shit!
Tried, you know what I'm saying? And they just put me right back.
Just right back in there. Maybe that's where you're supposed to be. If they put you back there, maybe that's where you're supposed to be.
That's what it's looking like. You know what I'm saying?
What do I always say? Everybody has a role. We need everyone. we need everyone. We need everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, how you been, man? You in your last week?
Yeah, we in the last few days of the honeymoon trip in Mexico. It's been fucking amazing. It's low key. I'm back to how I felt. It's funny. The last week, I feel the same way I felt the first week. Right, just like really appreciating being here, enjoying all of the views, just really appreciating the experience, and not so much caught up in trying to go do shit. If that makes sense, like doing the touristy shit. It's just really like
been eating at every restaurant in Mexico.
Yeah, we have damn near.
Food getting better?
Yeah, yes, food is getting better because we're cooking more. If that makes sense. But no, actually the last few restaurants we've been to have actually been good as fuck. I had a ribeye sandwich at a spot. I had we had some Caribbean chicken. We found, I already told you about the Al Pastor tacos that we found that's better than Primo Chuki's. But we found out that the restaurant right around the way has some fire ass fresh lobster and fresh fish.
Okay.
Like they caught it. The water that you.
Oh shit.
The water that you see me having like my pictures and shit is the water where they caught the lobster and the fish. So it's like literally fresh as fuck. It's amazing and it's cheap as shit. Like,
I'm about to ask, what's that lobster price out there?
How much did that lobster cost? Like $30? Right here in Pummel? Maybe less than that? Somewhere around there. Yeah, somewhere around
real
there.
Lobster prices.
Yeah, lobster prices, exactly. But it don't taste like no goddamn Red Lobster. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, and then yesterday we went, we saw some Mayan ruins in Tulum. We actually swam with some sea turtles, saw some stingrays and a bunch of different coral and shit. And then we also swam in a cenote. Do you know what a cenote is?
I think you mentioned that last week. It's like an underground cave or something like that.
That's exactly what it is. It's a underground, it's literally an underground cave with water in it, and it's fresh water. And it basically collects like rainwater, condensation, and all of like natural real water down in the cave.
Drinking that water?
No, sir. Because this is where like bats live. And it's pretty stagnant too. So after a while, it's not. It's not good. But what it is good for is building stalagmites, stalactites, and all of these like underwater cave systems that are pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie. I dove off of in pitch blackness. I dove off of a rock into the water underground in the cave.
This nigga's having some white boy fun. Okay.
Yeah, we told you about the white boy summer. But the newsworthy item here is the Haitian Sensation did it too. And that was amazing to see. Man, so yeah, you had the same impression I had. She tell everybody that she can't swim. She can swim,
that's
bro.
what I thought.
Yeah, no, she can swim. She can fucking swim. I don't know. She got the form down and everything. I used to do swim lessons. Yeah, I used to do swim lessons in Atlanta when I worked at the YMCA. So when she told me she can't swim and we got in the water, I'm all like coach prepped, right? Like getting ready to tell her what to do. She get in the water and start. I'm like, nigga, what the fuck? But no, yeah, she could definitely swim. But it was amazing to see her jump off of a cliff into the water. Like that was wild as fuck. But yeah, man, that was a wild ass day. That was a great day. Yeah, it was fucking fantastic. We still got we're doing a dinner for the Haitian Sensation's birthday in an underwater cave. We're gonna do that while we're out here. But other than that, it's pretty much chilling and eating at this point.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I'm glad you guys are being adventurous, trying new shit, doing new shit, enjoying yourself. That's what honeymoons are about, you know.
Definitely. I'm ready to come home too. There's certain amenities that I've worked hard for that I miss. Such as consistent Wi-Fi, such as my herbal medicine.
Were they able to acquire any out there?
No, I did. I got Reggie shit.
Bush.
Yeah, and they won't give him his trophy back neither. But you know, it gets the job done. It does what it has to do. But it's like I said, the amenities I have earned and worked hard for that I'm missing. All right, let's just get straight into the shits, man. I'm gonna let you go first on this. I'm gonna ask you the question, and I'm gonna let you set the stage for your opinion. But how you feel about Simone Biles and withdrawing from basically all of the Olympic events that she qualified for?
I'm of two minds about this. One is it's like the old school ideal of that, this is part of being a star and performing at a high level is the pressure and dealing with the mental aspect of it. So, I feel that, if you're prepared and ready, you should be able to handle these moments. But at the same time, I understand as well is that as a society, we've become more aware and more accepting of people just, dealing with whatever mental stress or anxiety they're going through to help them. So, like, I kind of, at the same time, wish she could power through, but I also understand that that might not be an option and that, she has some things she has to deal with. She went through a lot, so I totally get it. I think it's unfortunate because, everybody wanted to see her perform and do well in this Olympics. But at the same time, like I said, I understand, but kind of, I don't know. We'll see. She still, I think they said she still has maybe the balanced team, so maybe she might come through and do that. I don't know. That's the last thing I saw on ESPN.
Yeah, I think as of this morning, actually, she's not doing that either. Somebody else already competed and got either bronze or silver, one of the two.
Okay. Damn.
All right, that's very cute. I appreciate you trying to be. I appreciate you trying to be mature and, being evolved as you are. So here's my thing. I think that everything that she says and all of the support that she has garnered is worthy. I think it's important for people to, I think it's important for people to acknowledge mental health and the role that it plays in all of our lives and any human being lives. I think that's extremely important. And I think it's really important when athletes and really high profile athletes talk about that and are able to do it. And raise the profile of how important that is. However, with that being said, you don't get to call yourself the GOAT if you succumb to those mental health pressures. That's not how any of this works. She refers to
herself as the GOAT?
Yes, she refers to herself as the GOAT. She has a GOAT sequence onto her leotard. She's also the first athlete ever to have a Twitter emoji dedicated to and named after them. She's considered the GOAT. She considers herself the GOAT. Someone asked her, do you think you will ever be beat? She, I'm not sure about that. So she considers herself, she exhibits GOAT behavior. She act and walk around like she the GOAT. I'm sorry. You can't be the GOAT if you can't handle the mental pressures of the game. That's part of being the GOAT. We all are dealing with mental health issues and stresses and anxiety and all of these things when it's time for us to perform at what we do. All of us do. If you have a brain, all of us do, right?
That's true.
If you have a heart, all of us do. The greats, the GOATs, handle that shit and perform. That's what separates us.
Shout out to Isaiah Thomas.
Exactly. So I'm sorry, Miss Simone, you can't call yourself a GOAT. You can't be considered a GOAT. You're good. You're really good. You Kevin Love as hell. Good as fuck. Probably like second, third round Hall of Fame. Right? But you don't get to call yourself a GOAT. I'm sorry. That's not how any of this works. We're not doing that. And the fact that did you hear what her teammates said right after that? They was like, oh yeah, we got the silver, but to us, this is just as good as the gold. Excuse me?
Now that's a wild statement.
Have you pardon me? You come on now.
For that one, man.
That's not okay. That's not acceptable. We cannot. No, that's not. I don't even know how to. That is not okay. That is not an acceptable mentality to take on to compete against the entire fucking world. It's the goddamn Olympics. What are you talking about? The silver is just as good as the gold. Have you lost your fucking mind? And my problem is everybody is just stressing on the fact that she's taking the time to take care of her mental health as what the big important story in this is. That to me is not the big important story. The big important story is let's now, since we all know that that's something that humans deal with, right? And we see we don't have to really stress too much against people who don't believe that because of all of the support, for example, that Simone Biles is getting. She's getting everyone's love and support. So we know that that's a thing and people understand that. But what we're not talking about is the people who learn how to handle that shit and still perform, because I feel like that's the next step, right? Once we all become aware of this is an issue that we have, like smelly breath, then we develop something to conquer it as a people, and then it becomes widely used. Like toothpaste.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So, at what point can the pressure and stress or whatever you going through be too much for one person to bear? So, I'm assuming the things she's going through now, she was going through previously when she was doing really well and won all these gold medals and all of that in the past Olympics and world competitions. So, if you can do those things then and maybe not later, does that still take away from your greatness, or are you giving people a break?
I think it depends on a few different things. I don't think you get to the moment it comes time to perform, not perform. You can perform badly. And I do understand in gymnastics how dangerous it is to actually perform badly. I do understand that. And that's a huge caveat here. But for your question is basically for the average and normal human being. How much is too much?
Not necessarily. It's more for the high performers.
High performers is here.
Yeah. Do you think every high performer has a breaking point?
Everyone has a breaking point. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Everyone has a breaking point. I think what distinguishes the GOATs, though, is their breaking point is higher than everyone else they're competing against. That's all. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just higher, and their threshold for being able to perform proportionally to that pressure is what makes them a GOAT.
Okay.
Why you think Chris Paul don't have a ring? Because he couldn't perform the way he needed to when it counted most. Part of that could 1000% be he was injured or any of these other things that might come out in the offseason that we find out. But also a big part of that is mental health. Look at certain people, regardless of the circumstances around them, they raise to the level needed regardless, in spite of the pressure, right? That to me is what distinguishes the GOATs. That's and I don't understand why people aren't praising the folks who have figured out a way to either handle that mental pressure, right? And have coping mechanisms to be able to deal with it and handle it and still perform.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're not putting a little bit more attention on those people who have figured it out and may have some habits that a lot of us can try to replicate and customize to our own lives. I think that is very important.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times those stories don't tend to come out because those people are performing well and nobody assumes they are going through whatever difficulties they're going through. But my friend that's getting his PhD in psychology, he's interested in those type of things as well, where you have people that have PTSD and PTSG, post-traumatic growth. And I'm also interested in that as well. So hopefully whatever research he does, if he does decide to do research, he can teach us more about those types of things. Because I think those are very important because two people can go through the same experience and one person's ruined for life and the other person is changed for life for the better. So I think it's very interesting. But this makes me think, do you feel like the two major Olympic stories that have come out as far as the athletes have been the Sha'Carri and the Simone Biles, which is an example of, I guess, both of them having whatever mental stress or, whatever popping on in their lives kind of messing up their train of thought as far as performance and taking care of themselves and preparing themselves for the Olympics. You think she's another example of the mental fortitude not being quite there?
I think there's an argument for that. I think that the difference with Sha'Carri Richardson and Simone Biles to me is Sha'Carri Richardson wasn't considered a GOAT.
So the threshold was lower.
The threshold was a little bit lower. And that sounds really harsh, but that's not to minimize anything that she felt like she needed to deal with in the time being. And also this makes me think, if we're such mental health advocates, why don't we let people smoke?
I feel like the people
especially
that are mental health
athletes.
Element, because I think it's two types of people. Yeah, elements. People that are mental health advocates,
right?
I feel like tend to be more left leaning, and people that are against weed are people that tend to be more right wing leaning. I don't know if there's an intersection where those people would meet, where they would be fine with marijuana being used as far as athletics or whatever other realm you're speaking of. I think that's one of the reasons.
Self-medicated PR time for the weed business. Here we go. What you do is you make the tax argument and you make the mental health argument at the same exact time. So what you do is there's a lot of right-leaning people who are mental health advocates, but they are the other way on a whole lot of other issues. One of the things that they really love is lower taxes, right? So if you can use marijuana income to replace certain taxes, income taxes or whatever, but then you also change the conversation about, and you control the conversation about marijuana as a mental health medicine, right? And you package it and market it that way. I think you can find an intersection there for people on the left and the right to kind of find a common ground and make some bread.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It all depends on changing the marketing around marijuana, though, right? Like you have to go from the extreme far side of being a gateway drug to actually being a medicine. You know what I mean? I don't think it's far-fetched. I don't think it's extreme. I mean, out of our reach in terms of our marketing machine that we have here in America. But I think that's what's necessary in order to kind of smooth that around. Think about it. So many states already have it legal. You got to change it to a federal argument where the federal government and states can both provide some sort of tax relief instead of extra taxes, because that's how the conversation goes right now, right? That you got to tax marijuana for the that's why states are bringing it in. But if you frame it as replacing a portion of an income tax or a portion of a property tax, then folks feel more willing to pay for it if they also believe that and understand that it's helping folks' mental health. It's actually allowing them to go to work when they really don't want to and grind out that 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like that type of shit. Or if you frame it just like alcohol, motherfuckers know better than to go to work drunk or you're going to get fired. So don't do that. But after work, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, though, what I think Simone Biles is going through, and if you actually are paying attention to the Olympics, I don't know if you're watching. I'm watching as much as I can over here in Mexico with the amenities that we have. If you notice, a lot of the sports that the USA is typically dominant in, we're not this year. Swimming, although we did have Dressler, I want to say, win 4 or 5 gold medals, which, by the way, is more gold medals than Simone Biles won in the last Olympics. But we're not going to talk about that. But even in our swimming, some of our swimmers didn't get to where they were supposed to do. The struggles of the NBA, or I'm sorry, the USA basketball team have been well documented. Even in track and field, we're getting dominated. A lot of the sports where we're supposed to be just automatic. And the last time I checked, we're way behind in the gold and total medal count. We slacking this year. We ain't doing what they say. We not giving what it's supposed to give to be Team USA. And
what do you think that is the cause of that?
The cause of that, I believe, is that it's a combination of the internet maturing, or the utility or tool of the internet maturing, and athletes, celebrities, people in the mainstream being compelled to comment on social issues. Up until the internet matured, those public figures had an excuse not to really share their own personal opinion about whatever given issue was in the world. They could support it. They could, give money to some charities, but they never had to attach their word or their behavior to any given cause, ever. They were largely allowed to be anonymous. That's why the Michael Jordan quote about Republicans buy shoes too was a myth and a rumor until fucking last year. right? Until when it was confirmed. Like that type of shit, that kind of opinionated, and it's classic, right? Like things that you don't discuss in public, religion, sex, politics. Like those are just things you don't talk about in the public because you know how polarizing they are. And up until the internet maturing to the point where everybody is on it, everybody is using it, especially public figures to advance their careers. Folks didn't necessarily have to attach how they felt or what they thought to anything they did on social media. With the uprisings or riots or protests that we had in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd last year, in conjunction with this coronavirus pandemic, I think has started a new era of folks having to attach how they really feel about some shit to their brand. And what that is causing is everyone to be forced to have an opinion. So athletes specifically, for example, not only do they have to train and prepare for their sport, they also have to spend time now learning what to say, how to say it, choosing to respond to critics, standing up for certain issues, and if you're smart, educating yourself about those issues so that you can have a poignant point of view. And that's kind of required for their brands now, right? Like you can't really be silent on a lot of these things, which is why Madonna got something to say about the baby. That's random. That's why Elton John got something to say about the baby. You know what I mean? Like while they are advocates for that space, you don't answer every email you get. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not how that works. But there's a reason why that's happening. And I think for athletes competing on a global level, already having the Olympics delayed, and specifically all of the conversation that's been happening here in America, I think those athletes are being impacted by that. And it is affecting their performance. I think it's an extension of the mental health conversation that we were having. I'm not sure if some of these other countries have to deal with or choose to deal with quote unquote social issues the same way that we do. If you look at who's leading the medal count and the gold medal counts right now, who's beating the USA, it's China and it's Japan. You know how they control their media, right? Yeah. Like, you know how they control the messages getting out to their people and to their athletes and all of that. So, yeah, that's kind of why I think we're slacking right now, man, for real.
I don't see anything wrong with that theory. I have a slightly different theory, but I don't see anything wrong with that theory. My theory is that the U.S. athletes just were wholly and clearly unprepared. And one of the major distinct differences between most countries and the U.S. is that most countries support their Olympic athletes. Like they'll give them like stipends, provide housing, and give them facilities to practice in. We don't really do that with our athletes. So I feel like they had a whole year of like struggling, not having the best access to facilities or tools to utilize to even get themselves ready for the Olympics this year. I think that plays a significant role in why they aren't doing as well and why everybody's having mental health issues as well. Is they just had a hard time last year and they really weren't getting much help. So they kind of, it was all up to themselves to kind of deal with these things and prepare. So that's my simple assumption or theory of why.
Well, at the end of the day, we were all still getting charged taxes, and part of our tax money goes to support our Olympic teams. And that was another thing that bothered me about what Simone Biles did.
Not really.
That was another thing that bothered me. One of the things that bothered me. A lot of them get sponsorships. They're sponsored. The teams are sponsored. The teams get sponsorships. Go ahead. They're not sponsored?
Not like that. Like it's like the MMA where very few people at the top make millions of dollars than everybody below, like the shot putters, the sprinters,
No.
people you've never heard of, which
I'm
is the
not
majority
talking
of the athletes.
about.
The
Yeah, I'm
rowers.
not talking about income for the athletes, because I believe when they're in their competitive seasons is when they're earning their money. And if you're able to build a brand and become one of those top earners, then you can earn money outside of even the Olympics or your team. You can get endorsement deals. What I'm talking about is specifically the Olympic team, Team USA. That team is sponsored. At one point, the whole controversy with Michael Jordan was he was signed with Nike and they had Adidas uniforms, right? Those are sponsorships. I'm not sure. I think it's
payment. Because remember,
I'm not talking about
at one point,
no. Hold on. I think you're mistaken what I'm saying. I'm not talking about payment to the athletes. I'm talking about funding them being able to go to the Olympics, paying for their uniforms, that type of shit. I'm not talking about like a check for the individual athletes. I'm just talking about, so if you're familiar with like competitive sports, for example, the fundraising that you have to do and the sponsorships that you get, those are paying for you to be able to go over there and stay at the hotel, right? To pay for the hotel. It's to be able to pay for your uniforms. It's be able to book the tournament fees to be able to go and practice and all of that other shit. It's not to pay the people participating in the sports. So I'm talking about the same thing
confused.
with the Olympics. Go ahead.
Like I'm a little confused. How does that go into what I was saying exactly?
Off
camera.
I just took a big bite of food. My bad. Well, what you were saying was that other countries actually pay their athletes, right?
They provide, yeah.
For the national teams.
Yeah, they provide facilities for them to train, live, housing, stipends, things of that nature.
And the reason is because they don't make a lot of money outside of that. That's why we go so hard in recruiting foreign basketball players, for example, and why they're so willing to come over to the NBA. Number one, you're going to get paid more. Number two, it's not a state sanctioned thing. You're basically a government employee, right? For those other countries who are getting funded by their government, we're not doing that. We aren't funded by our government. We're funded by basically the people and endorsements and sponsorships. So it kind of works around that. And the only reason I bring that up is because another thing that Simone Biles said was that she doesn't owe anything to Team USA. And I think that speaks to the lack of competitive fervor that these athletes have felt over the last year for doing this shit. They've had other things that they've had to think about.
I think one of the reasons she believes that is because Team USA doesn't really provide anything to her. To me, it's kind of like college sports, where they'll provide you these things to help you do the sport. They don't provide you things to help you to make a living. So
yeah, but the reason is because they're making a living in other ways. But the living that they're making at the country are.
This is like college. Most athletes aren't making money.
But you have the opportunity to. Over there, you're stuck with the government. Yes, you do. Over there, you can be on.
You only have
be
opportunity
Instagram
based on your sport.
Not necessarily. You could be an Instagram star.
If that's the case, anybody can be an Instagram star.
Yes, anybody can be a fucking Instagram star. What are you talking about?
In theory, anybody can, but in practice, most people can't. You're talking about athletes. Most athletes don't have a personality or just with the level of intelligence to acquire information and make themselves a personality.
And so, you're now making my point is that now more than ever, and I think in a very specific way, the combination of the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the pandemic are forcing people to have to develop personalities in order to build and support that brand. That's exactly what I'm saying. In order to do what I'm saying.
I'm not arguing against that, though.
But in order to do that, you can't not have a personality. You have to develop one. And in order to develop one, that takes time away from training and doing your sport and being the best that you can be in a competitive level on your specific field. Now more than ever, there's more time having to be taken away from training and competing to think about building and establishing and building a brand. That's all I'm saying. And my theory is that as we adjust into more and more athletes and more people in general, having to balance those things, is going to take an adjustment period where we can start being dominant again. But we're not dominating because newly we are having to deal with that duality. And I think that is what's happening with a lot of these athletes. That's what my point is. I'm actually saying what you're saying.
I see what
is
you're saying and how you looped it in.
Is contributing. Yeah. What I'm saying.
I see what you're saying and how
you're saying is happening. What I'm saying is before you start again. I'm saying is I'm agreeing with what you're saying, and I'm saying what you're saying is contributing to the lack of dominance for the first time in a long time, and in a lot of sports that we have traditionally been dominant in. And it's just an adjustment period. We'll be fine, but I think that's a new thing that we're dealing with, and I don't think other countries have had to deal with it in the same way.
I see how there's an intersection to what you're saying. I think what you're saying is more athlete specific. Yes. What I'm saying is more systematic. So, yeah, I think that
on that level
there is some intersection and maybe a little where things aren't in the same pie chart. You know, not a pie chart. What's like they call those two circles when they merge together? What's that called?
Venn diagram.
Yeah, in the Venn diagram. But
I was speaking. I was speaking specifically about athletes. Yeah, I'm definitely talking specifically about athletes. That's why. I don't know. A part of that could be why so many NBA players, and if you go back to the NFL last year too, why so many NFL players were hurt. Not the same amount of time to spend on training and strength and conditioning. When you out here tweeting and talking to the PR team, that's all I'm saying.
All right. I think we talked that one to death. What else is on the docket?
Let's see. You want to talk about the vaccine being increasingly pointless?
Okay.
The more research, more and more research has been coming out and being reported by reputable sources that the vaccine is not as effective against the Delta variant of the coronavirus as
Before you continue,
previously thought. I'm being objective here. I'm just reading news sources.
I just want you to specify what you mean not as efficient.
As efficient as they previously stated was the rest of that sentence. So what they previously stated was that So what they previously stated was that if you get the vaccine, you cannot transmit or be contagious or as contagious. You would not get as ill, limiting death, probably not going to die from the coronavirus if you have the vaccine.
I agree with most of that.
So I think those were the two main reasons why they were saying. They were like, you become less contagious when you have the vaccine. And even if you do get it, you're less likely to die from the virus. Those were the two, what I remember, were the two main selling points for the vaccine. So that it'd be a lot harder to give it to other people. And even if you do get it, in the very rare chance that you get it, you might get sick, but you're not going to die. And I think that was the fear. The reason why they got rid of mask mandates and started opening shit back up once people started getting the vaccine was because it's less likely to give it to someone else, right?
All right.
Given that a whole bunch of people have the vaccine.
All right, before you continue.
Sure.
That was, what you were speaking about was strictly for the first COVID strain, right?
Stop. I'm going to stop you right there.
I'm asking a question.
Did anyone say when they were telling y'all to get the vaccine hey, this will only work against this strain. Did anybody say that? Was that a part of the conversation? Was that known to people?
I'll answer your question after you
Tell the
answer
truth.
mine.
Tell the truth.
Yeah. Why don't you answer my question first?
The answer is yes, but we didn't
Okay.
know that. We didn't know that until after they kept telling people to get the vaccine. That was not a part of the rollout for getting the vaccine. Nobody said, hey, this is only effective against this strain. Nobody said that.
How would you know it would be effective against other strains if the other strains weren't out yet?
How would you know other strains are coming?
They
Certain
always
people, exactly, they always do. So certain people said, hey, maybe we should wait until this develops a little bit more so we can get the most effective vaccine. Not season 1, episode 1 of the shit.
Okay. That's not how things work, though.
That's exactly how it works. The only hiccup in that is that we needed to open the country back up. So we had to accelerate the development of the new strain.
Theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's literally science. No, because
it's
when
not.
we were like,
it's not. Let me explain to you why.
I haven't even made my point yet. The reason why we were able to
spreading misinformation. That's why I want to stop you.
It's not misinformation. It's literally what happened. We were both there. But let me tell you, when the first vaccine was developed, we were on a lockdown. So we were on a lockdown. So that strain, that vaccine was developed for that strain that grew and evolved while we were on a lockdown. The next variants, the Delta and the Lambda, are able to develop and evolve and be immune and change their characteristics because we are now mingling around each other again, right? Like they have to be able to develop. They have to interact with the vaccine and evolve. That's how a virus works. That's literally how it works.
No.
What are you talking about?
Viruses mutate.
Exactly.
They don't mingle and interact. No.
They have to mutate based on...
No. Let me, brother.
Okay.
Viruses mutate on their own. They don't mutate with... They do mutate with medicine as well, but the way most viruses develop different strains or variants is when they mutate on their own. That's why HIV was so hard to figure out for so long, because every person wouldn't have the same virus, or would mutate within that person's personal system. So they mutate in order to fight the immune system. So like you don't have to have a vaccine for the virus to mutate. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
I never said that at all. I didn't say you have to have had the... I never said that you had to have the virus in order for it to mutate.
Brother.
You won't even let me finish my point. So you keep
I wasn't finished with mine.
Because you interrupted me to make your point, and you haven't even let me finish my point. That's all that I'm trying to say.
Okay.
But what I was saying is literally the exact same thing that you were saying. The virus mutates. I'm sorry I used the word mutate. I'm sorry I used the word evolve. Interchange that with fucking mutate, if that's better for your mind. The virus mutates.
Scientifically accurate. Thank you.
Okay. The virus mutates. My only point was, if we continued the lockdown and let the virus mutate, then we can come up with a vaccine that is effective against the most dangerous mutation of the virus. That's my only point. I'm not saying don't get the vaccine. I'm not saying that the vaccine doesn't work. What I'm saying is, hey, this first version is going to be the least researched, the least tested version of a vaccine that we can develop, given the fact that this virus is going to mutate, it's going to change, it's going to have different characteristics, it's going to affect different people different ways. So why are we getting the first version of this? Who does that help?
Well,
especially if that virus is quickly now back deadly to the Delta variant.
All right.
That's all I'm saying. What was the point of getting the very first version?
All right. You done? I'm good. I want to make sure you got all your points off.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you.
I want to hear the answer to that question.
All right. First of all, it's a cost-benefit analysis, right? If the majority of the people are dying from this current variation, waiting for a mutation is going to cost you more lives than it would if you give a vaccine to cure the most recent variation. So off top, I think that's probably one of the reasons why this is one of the issues people. This is one of the issues people have with Trump and Biden, where Trump, because he waited so long to make this a national public health issue, more people died. Now, if he took it more serious and got people more into taking the vaccine, less people would have died. And so that's one of why we got the first round. Two, it's like the flu. The flu, you have to make a new flu vaccine every year. So like we know it's going to mutate. No matter if it mutates in, when we were in lockdown or not, there's going to be a variant. So I will go with you as far as this part about the economy and putting people back out and no longer being on lockdown. That was beneficial to most places. Unfortunately, like you said, it created the variant that spread so much is because more people were out, but also mainly because it happened in India, who was having a hell of a time trying to manage the shit. So, like, that's probably what's going to happen anyways, just because they aren't as well prepared and financially secure as other countries, right? So, no matter what we did, there would have been a variant. The impact of the variant really depends on if people are vaccinated as well, because even people that are vaccinated, they tend to do better than not with the Delta variant, whereas people that don't have any vaccination aren't doing that well because this is a stronger, more aggressive strain. So, like I said, the cost-benefit analysis is it's better to get it earlier than it is to get it later, because when you're getting later, you're kind of gambling that you won't be affected while you're waiting for a later or newer version to come out. But also when you do that, you have to deal with the repercussions of people waiting and not as many people being vaccinated, which is a more aggressive strain that's hurting people more than it would if they were vaccinated and did it earlier instead of later. That is my answer.
I guess my only argument is the cost benefit analysis piece is hard to determine yet, because one argument is get the people whatever vaccine now ASAP to limit how many deaths we have initially. But if that somehow creates an environment for the virus to mutate in an accelerated fashion, then long term, over the long haul, and as we get different variants, the long-term cost benefit analysis may not be so much. If you lose more lives in the beginning, but end up by the time we have this thing totally under control, fewer lives than if you save a few lives in the beginning, but every single variant is increasingly more deadly. So that by the end, to that end point, that finish line, all I'm saying is we don't know the cost benefit analysis yet. It may be reactionary to say, hey, let's stop as many deaths as we can with this initial variant. But just like you said, it's going to mutate and it's going to become more and more deadly based on its mutations. And so long term, once we have a vaccine that's effective against those more deadly variants, who's to say what cost benefit analysis is more accurate? To save all the lives as you can in the beginning, or to save as many lives as you can over the long term as you develop more and more potent defenses against a more deadly virus. That's what I'm saying. That cost benefit analysis is we don't know.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with that dichotomy of issues.
Say more.
Because the only people that are being harmed at a high rate are people that aren't vaccinated. So that would prove
decreasingly so, though.
Not that.
Well,
it's still like 97%.
No, it's not. It's 84 now. I'm not sure if you saw that. It's 84 today.
Where's
Last week it was 98. ABC News, CBS News, CNN. This is from the CDC.
I'm
They're
talking about the
reporting with the
article you
CDC news
okay.
because there was a new study.
Right.
No, the new study from the CDC came out, I think, on Friday. And that new study reported the new numbers. They updated all of the numbers. And it went from the week before, I believe it was 96 or like 96.7, something like that. On Friday's report, it's down to 84 in 1 week. That's that. So pointing to that type of research, I'm like, damn, this shit is developing quick. It's moving fast. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, all right, if we're able to look at and wait for vaccines that are more powerful against the more deadly strains, it might not be a bad idea. Did I lose you? I think I lost you. It's not my internet this time. All right. I guess this is the pause.